So I would ask, I would encourage, I would hope that if you owe me something, that we can get it done sooner than later, please. Because unfortunately, some of your grades are not reflective of what you actually know. They are showing a 0 for something that might be a little bit too old. So this past quiz is not counting against you yet. Come Friday, which actually means Monday morning, I will put the goose egg in for this past test. So please get things made up. We can take care of you. No, I don't use the testing center, so don't go to the testing center going, I went to the testing center to do it. Come see me. Doesn't matter if it's your off period and I have class, come on in. All right. So my friends, I am on page 21 of our booklets. Now, I need to warn you. This is where statistics start sounding like legal stuff. Because we're going to use words like fail to reject.
So it's like accounting.
And you're like, I don't even know what fail to reject means. It's like using two negatives. Your English and grammar teachers would probably go crazy in statistics because the terminology that's used in math, it's not good. And I think that's where the statisticians are like, you know what, I have an idea. Let's mess with people. All right, so 6-1. We are going to start creating what is called a null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis, which is an alternative hypothesis. A null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis. They are not difficult to do, but I just need to warn you, they do involve a little bit of reading, or excuse me, a little bit of writing. Okay, the previous chapter we talked about hypothesis testing. A hypothesis test is a test that is used to determine whether there is enough evidence in a sample of data to infer a certain condition is true for the entire population. A hypothesis test examines two opposing hypotheses about the population, the null and the alternative hypothesis. Therefore, each hypothesis test requires a null and an alternative hypothesis. Don't worry, this is relatively simple. So a null hypothesis is a type of hypothesis in statistics that proposes the no statistical significance exists. So null starts with N, no starts with N, so that's how you know that you would use the word no in someplace in there. An alternative is based on that, yes, there is significant relationship discovered here. There is a difference, an effect, a change, a relationship is prime, or perhaps that we have discovered something different than expected in status quo. So I have actually used this test a couple of different times when I got to deal with data analysis. The first time I used it would have been about 16 years ago. So me and this other math teacher, when I was down at Chaparral, we wanted to do something different than other teachers were doing. So at Chaparral, we used to have a movable wall, or a wall you could open between classrooms so you could create a larger classroom. Okay? Still following me in this adventure? And so what we decided to do, and think back when you took Algebra 1, this might have been a good idea. As far as the teaching end, it might have sucked for you as a student. So what we did is we doubled our Algebra 1 classes, meaning we would open the wall between the two classrooms, and we would have rows of 13 desks in each row. And so it was huge. So some teacher would be teaching way far away, and whatever was projected on the very front board, we actually had kind of like in that situation, if I turn that on, I could project what's here also on there. So one teacher would teach the concept, and the other teacher, in order to keep freshmen kind of engaged, would be wandering around the room making sure, why aren't you taking notes? Are you taking notes? What are you doing? Oh, I want a pencil. Here's your pencil. Well, I lost that pencil you just gave me. I just gave it to you. Hey, these are some of the things we did. But what we did is we wanted to, after we did it for a couple of years, we wanted to show that there was a significant difference. Students that were in the team-taught classes did better than the students. So, just figure this: 60 freshmen, same classroom. Even though it's two classrooms, the wall's open, so both classes are in the same classroom. So we sat there and we used a test that you all opted out of. It was the state assessment.
Yeah, because it's stupid.
Well, I understand that, but Chaparral hadn't caught on yet that we should opt out, and they were still trying to go by the rules. So we were using that test, and we would determine how well kids did in that we had versus the rest of the students who had Algebra 1. So we created a null hypothesis and an alternative, and we were able to run something called the two-sample t-test. We've done a one-sample t-test, and we were able to show that there was significant higher probability that a student that was in our team-taught 60 freshman class, they did better. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is real data. And, it makes some people who are leaders of schools think, oh, maybe we've been doing things incorrectly. Well, we kind of just had some fun with it. But
Have a class, all the classrooms be 60 kids. That would be. I don't know.
And you'd have two teachers.
Yeah, 2 teachers, and all of your classes are 60 kids.
Heck, I've proposed having Algebra 1 taught in Schilling Law where we have 3 in there, 3 classes.
For freshmen, that might work, but I think other people would not like that.
No, I understand.
And it'll be easier for the kids to cheat though.
Well, the thing is, when you have 2 sets of eyes, it made it a little tougher. And when you open up the classroom where one of the classrooms doesn't need this teaching space, the desks were pretty spaced out.
Yeah.
So.
You have the whole stage.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. We had fun. And then, I would teach one day, and then the other teacher would teach the next day, and we teach alternate. Yeah, it was nice. I'm actually trying to get him to apply to come here. Because I think. Yeah, he's a good guy. His name's Aaron Wagner. So. Yeah, he's an Eagle Crest graduate, and but don't worry, I slowed down my speech for him. So, all right. So again, the null hypothesis has the whole concept of somewhere in the statement says no, N-O. Okay. So the null hypothesis is denoted by H naught. So the null, you would use H naught or H sub 0. The alternative is denoted by either H1 or HA. Okay, so it's either one. Okay, so go down to example 1. It says, we wish to do a study to see if a new medication for lowering cholesterol works. Probably something that's really done in real life, right? Drug companies. Hey, we're putting together this drug. We're showing that, in all of the experiments we've done on rats and mice that they lower their cholesterol. Let's see if this medication works. So the null hypothesis, H naught, says the new medication has no effect on cholesterol levels. It doesn't show that there's higher or lower. We're just saying that there's no effect. The alternative hypothesis, HA, is the medication. And then what you have to do is you have to figure, do you want to have an effect? So the new medication, with cholesterol, you want to say that it lowers. So the new medication lowers cholesterol levels, okay? You could frame it the other way, where if you wanted to say, hey, this new medication raises cholesterol, which you probably don't want, you would then say raises cholesterol levels. So basically, what these are doing is they're still going back to the normal curve. You're trying to see, hey, do we have enough information to say this does show information? Of course, during any type of drug information that they do surveys on with people is they do something called a double-blind test, meaning the person who is giving the drug to the person doesn't know if it's a drug or a sugar pill, aka a placebo, and the patient doesn't know if they're getting it or not. And then when they do that, and the reason they do that is they feel that if you do a double-blind test, you would get people that would treat the person who's getting the new little pill, they would be treated differently if you knew you were giving a patient a certain type of drug versus they were getting a sugar pill. And I say sugar pill because that's basically what it is. So null hypothesis, H sub 0 or H naught, alternative H1 or HA. So the second example says, we wish to do a study to see if yoga reduces stress levels. Now, we've all heard where people say, oh, this is happening, oh, really works, oh, yes, it really works, yes, it really works. So you hear the word of mouth about stuff, but is that really significant statistics or, whatever? I can say, does yoga work? I don't know. There's a yoga class that I sometimes see at the rec centers going on, and I look at it going, they're kind of, standing or sitting in weird positions. And I just say whatever and move on. So maybe it works for those people. I don't know. Those of you who do use yoga, well, good. Paying attention to your body does have probably good effects for you. So we wish to do a study to see if yoga reduces stress levels. So the null hypothesis, yoga has no effect on stress levels. The alternative, HA, yoga reduces stress levels. Okay? And I guess you would have to somehow give some sort of survey that you have, again, a random stratified sample that you're looking at. Okay, example 3, is there gender differences in ability to learn a foreign language? So the null hypothesis, H sub naught, there is no gender differences in the ability to learn a foreign language. The alternative, HA, there is a gender difference in the ability to learn foreign language. Now, how I would probably phrase that, I'm going to take that back. I wouldn't rephrase it. I'd keep it as is. It seems good. Example 4, is the unemployment rate lowering in recent years? So the null hypothesis, there has been no significant change to unemployment rates in recent years. The alternative hypothesis, the unemployment rate has been lowering in recent years. So you want to know what a lot of times is done to make things look better, especially at the federal government level? So years ago, you had a certain unemployment rate that took place. It wasn't liked by the federal government, and I don't remember what the rate was. So then they changed basically who they were qualifying as unemployed. So an unemployed person was somebody who was actively seeking employment and couldn't find a job. Well, the federal government said, okay, if this person hasn't been actively seeking a job for the past 6 months, they're not unemployed. They changed the way they were collecting the data, which had a significant role in saying, hey, look, last month we had an unemployment rate of X, whatever X is. And then they changed the rules and said, hey, look, this month the unemployment rate dropped X minus 7. Because they changed the rules. So people are, I feel good about myself. Unfortunately, there's different things that do take place. I'm not saying any one political party. I think both political parties are silly. Both sides, in my opinion, have silly ideas, and I'm not trying to sway anybody on that.
It's the Communist Party.
I'm not saying anything on that. I'm just saying that there are I don't care who is in office, if you have the majority of this or that, there are things that I sit there and going, is it going to affect my life that much? I think I'm okay. So, but, huh? My life.
Yeah, you're a straight white man.
Exactly. He didn't
It,
know.
like, none of that really affects your life.
Okay,
Surface.
is this going to affect Gio's life in any way, shape, or form? If it does, I'm going to go against it so it helps Gio. Good. God had, I love it. I love it. First period, the rest of the day is just looking downhill. I'm just kidding. All right, the average IQ overall is 100, but people who work crossword puzzles regularly have a higher IQ. So the null H naught is the average IQ for crossword puzzle solvers is 100. The alternative, the average IQ of crossword solvers is greater than 100. So you'd be looking at the right side of a normal curve once you look at all your information. And then the unemployment rate is below 4%. So the null hypothesis is the unemployment rate is not below 4%. The alternative, HA, the unemployment rate is below 4%. So basically the difference between the null has the no associated with it. The hypothesis doesn't. And then that's basically what your assignment will be for next time we have class. It is, let's see, 6-1, we're good. So we're looking at, what do you say we do? Page 91, 92, 1 through 9, odd. Sound like a deal? All right, I'm sorry.